Hi, welcome to my video on the motion of an object in the air. And we're going to talk about velocity and acceleration. The h of t equals a t squared plus bt plus c represents the height m at the time t in seconds, and the time is greater than or equal to 0. So this is the, looks like it is the equation of a quadratic parabola, and we're going to look at finding the height, but also in this video we're going to look at finding the velocity and the acceleration. Let's continue. H of t equals negative 4.9 t squared plus 39.2 t plus 14.4. Find the h of o. So the h of o is that we put, or the h of 0 is 0 time, I said o, 0 time is 0, so we plug 0 in, the same as we plug in any other value that we need in a function. So that's 0 squared, negative 4.9 times 0 is 0. 39.2 times 0 is 0. So that means that the object is starting off when the time is 0, that we will have a height of 14.4. And it's in meters, so the height is in meters. So this is the h of t. T is 3, or sorry, t is 0 in this case. So now let's look at when the time is 3. So negative 4.9 times 3 squared plus 39.2 times 3 plus 14.4. And if you take 4.9 and multiply by 3 squared, so 4.9 times 9 is going to give you a negative 44.1, and 39.2 times 3 is going to give you 88. Let's see, better check that out. 39.2 times 3 is going to give you 117. What's it? 117.6. And you add on 14.4. So you get 117 and subtract 44.1, and you add on 14.4, and it gives you 87.9. So you can plug all this in the calculator and work it out rather than do it separately like I did here. Again, the height is 87.9 at 3 seconds, and at 0 seconds is 14.4. Now, let's find the average height from 0 to 3. So the h of 0 is 14.4. The h of 3 is 87.9. So the average height is like a slope. The average height is you could say it's h2 minus h1 and t2 subtract t1. So the height, if you take this 3 to be, so that's the h of 3 minus the h of 0 all over 3 minus 0. So that's 87.9 minus 14.4 all over 3 minus 0 is 3. So that gives us, subtract 9 subtract 4 is 5, 7 subtract 4 is 3, 8 subtract 1 is 7, divided by 3. So 73.5 division 3, you're going to get the average height over that span is 24.5 meters. The average height. So let's go on and do more. If that's the average height, what about the height at a particular time, which is called at a particular time would be the velocity, the height in terms of time. Let's go further now. Velocity is the rate of change of height in terms of time. So Vt velocity in terms of time is h divided by t. Height is in meters and time is in seconds. So if we do d dt in terms of the height, in terms of time, we get a dh dt. And that dh dt is the derivative of the height in terms of time. So that's what we call the velocity. So the velocity is the derivative of the height in terms of time. H prime is denoting the velocity, and Vt is velocity. And that's the instantaneous rate of change of the height in terms of time at a particular time. So let's go and work out some velocities. The h of t equals negative 5t squared plus 30, where h is the height in meters, t is the time in seconds, and the time is going to be greater than or equal to 0 because we can't have a negative time. So what's the value of h prime 2? So that's the velocity at 2. So if you take this function and work h prime t, do the derivative, negative 5 times 2 is negative 10t. Derivative of 30 is a 0. So that's the velocity. So Vt is equal to h prime. And the h prime of 2 is negative 10 times 2. So that's negative 20. And that's negative 20 meters per second, because the derivative is the height in terms of time. And Vt is velocity, so Vt is the same as h prime of 3. And so if we have h prime of t is equal to 10t, so the h prime of 3 is negative 10 times 3, which is negative 30 meters per second. So we have the velocity. And you notice, if you think about it, look at the height, and you look at time, this height, if you've got a time of 0, the height is 30. So let's say that's 30 right there. So when t is 0, the height is 30, and this object is coming down from there, like this, and until it hits the ground when the height is 0, which is this time here. So this object that's moving in the air is coming down, so the velocity is negative, meaning indicating it is coming down. So at 2 seconds is on the way down, 3 seconds is on the way down, and so that velocity is negative, is coming down. And in relation to the parabola, there's the diagram. So what about the h of t equals negative 5t squared plus 40t plus 18? H is the height in meters and t is the time in seconds. Find the velocity for 4 seconds. So the h prime t, velocity is the derivative. So that means that you have h prime of 4. So the h prime of t is negative 5 times 2 is negative 10t. Derivative of 40t is 40. Derivative of 18 is 0. So we want to find the h prime of at 4 seconds. So it's negative 10 times 4 plus 40. So it's a negative 40 plus 40. There's a 4 there. Make sure you. So the velocity is 0, which means that the velocity is stop. So when the h prime, which is the velocity, and the velocity is 0, that means the object is stopped for that moment in the air. So if you think about it, And just to look at it from another perspective, if you let t be 0, you have 18. So let's pretend 18 is right there. And this is t and this is h. So this object is at 18 and it's going upward. So as time goes by, it goes upward till it gets, so when the time is 4 seconds, let's say right here, so the height, it keeps going up and up and up till it hits that maximum height, and then it starts to come down like that. So at 4 seconds, we have a maximum height. So the velocity is 0. Okay, let's continue. And again, the object in the air is very similar, moving the same as a parallel. And we have acceleration. Acceleration is the rate of change of the velocity in terms of time. So the acceleration is a of t, and the acceleration is the derivative of the velocity, which is, that's h double prime of, so when we do derivative once, we get velocity. When we do the derivative twice, we get acceleration. So again, double prime on the height is the acceleration, or the double prime is the derivative of the velocity, etc. So that means that we have velocity is the height over time, and now that's the height over time again. So that's the height divided by time squared. Explain the relation to derivative d dt, and the derivative of the height in terms of time is velocity. So that's d squared h over dt squared. And again, to explain, the double derivative of the height is the single derivative of the velocity, which gives you acceleration in terms of time. So the acceleration is the double derivative. So the height, t, is negative 5t squared plus 30t plus 40, where h is the height in meters, t is time in seconds, and the time is greater than 0. So let's find the height at 0. Well, we don't have to do any derivatives, just plug the 0 in, or sub the 0 in, and we get the initial height. 0, should write down a 0, not plus, 0 here, 0 here, plus 40. So the initial height is 40. So h double prime of 1. So h double prime, let's get the derivative. So the h prime t, the derivative of negative 5t squared is the negative 10t. Derivative of 30t is 30. Derivative of a constant is 0. So that's the velocity. So h double prime is derivative of a negative 10t is negative 10. Derivative of 30 is 0. So that means that this height, that's meters, this is meters per second. So that's meters squared velocity. And go backwards here, that's the velocity, and that's the acceleration, if that's the way. So this is a double derivative, is the derivative of the velocity, and we have acceleration. And what's the acceleration? A at 2. So again, the acceleration, h double prime is the acceleration, so that's negative 10. So the h double prime of 2 is like a constant. The constant never changes no matter what time it is. So the acceleration at 2 seconds is a negative 10 meters per second squared. And last, let's find the average velocity. At the average velocity, the average acceleration from 0 to 3. So we have velocity. We have found velocity is a of t, or the h double prime of t is negative 10. So the h double prime of 0 is negative 10. The h double prime of 3 is negative 10. Because this is a constant, no matter what the value of time is, no matter what input we put in, we're always going to get a negative 10. So the average velocity, average acceleration, not velocity, the average A is the A, this is A1, or we could say double prime of 2, subtract double prime of 1, all over. Time is t2, subtract t1. So it's like a slope. So the double prime here is negative 10, subtract negative 10, all over 3 minus 0, negative 10 plus 10 over 3, 0 over 3. So the average velocity, there's average velocity, there's change, that's plus 10. There's no change in the velocity. So it's 0. And that brings us, again, just looking at the average velocity, it's no change. It's negative 10, subtract negative 10 is 10. 0 divided by 3 is 0. Okay, click on the buttons. If you click on the like button if you like my video, click on the subscribe button if you like my video. Visit the math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. That's the content on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Just one word. Thank you for viewing my video. Hope the video helped you. Bye-bye.